Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to welcome all of you here. My name is Namita. I'm the new editor for CM Today magazine. Today's webinar, titled Going Beyond the Legacy Systems in FM, is organized by CM Today and sponsored by Facilio, a company that aims to transform the built environment through technology. We have with us Mr. Kanagraj. On our panel, we have Mr. Kanagraj, Managing Director of Better Communities Owners Association Management, Stuart McGregor, Managing Director of BK Gulf, Bashar Mohammed Kasab, Senior Director at EMAR Facilities Management, and David Nice, General Manager at Emerald. So the webinar will primarily focus on the use of new age technology and how they have moved beyond what is normal and streamlined activities and helped increase productivity and helped save costs. So the webinar will be moderated by Mr. Prabhu, the CEO and founder of Facilio. So before I hand over the session to Mr. Prabhu, I would like to tell the audience to please make the session as interactive as possible. Please send in your questions on the chat so the speakers will respond to you. So I'm handing over the session to Mr. Prabhu.
Yeah. Thank you, Namita, and welcome everyone for this webinar. Special thanks to all the panelists for joining us today and sharing their knowledge on this topic. I'll just give a context on like why do we need to discuss about this specific topic today, and then we'll get into a discussion with the panelists. So if you see last couple of years, if for any um, facilities management teams and property operations teams in both the customer side and also the FM services side, the expected deliverables from these teams has already expanded and it's expanding more, specifically after COVID. And then there are more responsibilities for the property operations teams in terms of like they have to take care of customer experience, whether it is a office property or a hotel or a entertainment area. Like customer experience is very very important now. And then now after COVID, the whole health and wellness is now being brought into the responsibility of the operations teams to make sure the properties are well maintained and customers feel safe to come in and occupy. And also now the expectation is on the overall operational efficiency of the properties, which in turn is going to impact the businesses that are running inside the properties. Simple thing like opening up the properties itself is a key part of economic restart now. That's a kind of high stakes that the FM operations teams are there today. They have more work to be done. So with that background, we want to bring in key leaders and then understand from them in simple terms like three steps, what are the problems that they are facing now, and from a technology point of view, what are the gaps that they are seeing from existing legacy systems, and then how they are planning to bridge that and solve their problems and use technology as a strategic tools for themselves to move forward and build a better future. So that's the whole flow of the webinar today. So I'll start with some the so like what problems that are being faced. So to the panelists, I would like to for the panels to talk about what are your top challenges that you're facing today. One or two challenges each of you in terms of the new settings, the new more responsibilities that are coming in, plus all the constraints that are there in terms of business and logistics. So what are the challenges that you want to explain? Like one or two challenges each one of you can pick up and share. So can we start with say Kanakraj? You're on mute, Kanakraj. Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhu, for your detail in the intro and then brief about that the today webinar. And that the topic itself speaks rethinking legacy systems in the farm side. I would say that all the FM companies operated around the world, including especially in UAE. They have done a fabulous job, especially the frontliners during the difficult, unexpected crisis that everyone gone through it, and we must thank you them. And the especially in terms of the challenges that currently that I would point it out, there's a two things that I can bring it to the to the discussion. One is there, irrespective of the properties, and the different property managers has a different technology they brought in, and the FM side, then they have their own technology they brought in to the facility management. So integrating this technology into to run the the property to smooth, etc. That could be one of the challenges. The integration between the two different major industry people bringing their own technology, how to build and integrate. In addition to that one, apart from that one, the building also has got own tools and technologies. Start from BMS, start from that BIM model, etc. Right. So now the integration is the most common challenge that we face normally. That's from I'm coming from the property management side. That other speakers will add another thing. When you come to that property management, when the FM is our core, or we can say brain of that building, right? So that's the way they have to run 24/7 without interruption. Okay, but the frequent change in terms of either property management or manager, or maybe the facility manager, and again the recouping, that could be one of the challenges, because the history, the volume of information has been some sort of challenge faced when it comes for managing the properties. So these are the two primary or core problems or challenges. I would not say problem, challenges that in terms of managing the properties with respect to legacy systems. And I leave it to others.
Yeah. Yes. I think so. Tech integration, team collaborations are definitely like top problems that we are also seeing in common. So from uh, say like from a facility service provider angle, can we ask, like, can David, can you share like what are the challenges that you would pick up?
Sure. Well, I'll come on to the technology challenges a little bit further along, but maybe a couple of different challenges that we're facing. Obviously, expectations are rightly so, and rightly so. They're raising day by day. People want, and certainly over the last couple of years, where people live, where people work, their expectations have gone higher than ever. And obviously, pricing at the other end of the spectrum is being driven down. So bridging that gap between the expectations and the price is a challenge, but it's something that's always been a challenge for FM service providers, and it's obviously something that we work on literally every day to try and bridge that gap. So yeah, that's one of those. But I do feel over the last couple of years, because end users probably more in particular probably see FM as a cost, and how much do we need FM? But I do believe over the last couple of years, the value of FM, even end users are now seeing that benefit, and actually what facilities management and property management companies are delivering day by day to make their lives better. And that's obviously what we're trying to do. Another challenge for us, and well, I think it's the service sector as a whole, but cash flow tends to be a challenge. And the service sector does tend to be prone to payment delays. So I think if that is improved, that can obviously give everyone a benefit, and that's the full supply chain. Something that we work on every day, as I'm sure every other company does the same thing, and we try and use our relationships to help that cash flow, both with our suppliers and our clients. So yeah, there's a couple from me. Thanks.
Yeah. So to summarize yours, more responsibilities, plus on top of it, there is continuous pricing pressure. So these are challenges. From a building owner point of view, like Bashar, can you share like what are the challenges that you see beyond what the other panelists explained?
Thank you, Prabhu. And I want to also build on what David have said. It's about the change in customer needs. Now, customers are becoming very well educated. They do understand and they do know what they want. to a great extent, and they do flip based faster than the technology actually can accommodate their requirements. So this change in customer needs is one large challenge. The other one is cost optimization for sure. So the value for the dirham paid by the individuals. FM is always seen and will always be seen as a cost center. The value will only be realized at the time of, you know, the asset disposal, I would say, or at the time of the capital expenditure, when the capital expenditure is required. Then you would realize that you had a good FM that took you through the entire asset life cycle and maybe beyond, or you have a lousy FM regime or strategy that had the asset to fail prematurely. And one other challenge is the pressure that is put on the strategies. Most of the companies had a strategy that is maybe 5 years long, and when COVID came, the whole thing changed. It proved the need for an agile strategy. How we every company would require to have or to account for a change in their strategy because of an unforeseen factors. Therefore, if you see now, most of the strategies are becoming from a mid-term to even a short term. So you'll have a 1 year or to 2 year strategy. You will less and less see a 5 or 10 year strategy from now on. That is from my perspective.
Yeah. So I think, yes, that is a great insight where the industry is being used to planning in like say 5 years or 7 years thing. But when in the new world, there is a lot of things are changing. You have to be really, really agile, and that is a real challenge. So finally, Stuart, can you share your views on top of what others shared? What are the challenges that you see?
Yeah, I guess from my perspective, and a bit controversial, but I don't see a huge amount of difference. FM businesses have always had to be agile. We've always been 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So for me, the operational impact was about when COVID hit, and we had to do things very differently then. So, we weren't allowed to transport as many people in the buses. We had to have PCR tests. We had to get vaccinations. The operational impact was very much around 2020 and when COVID hit us. I think as we're coming out of it now, and we're talking about being a potentially almost a post-COVID landscape, we're back to where we were. We're back to being very agile, being very reactive to customers' needs, planning all of the planned maintenance and delivering that. I mean, if I think about contracts that we had pre-COVID and contracts that we've retained and we've still got post-COVID, nobody's changed the scope. The scope hasn't changed at all. So we're still required to be that service provider that manages the asset to the full requirements of customer requirements. And continue being very agile in the way we
Okay, great. Yeah. Can you hear me? Sorry. Hello? I think we lost Stuart.
It could be some technical errors.
Okay, fine. So moving from we looked at the challenges, and from what the panelists shared, I see some of the common ones are like integrating tech between both the vendors and the service providers and the customers, collaboration between teams, pricing pressure plus new expectations, and also becoming agile, ever-changing strategies. These are the challenges. So before we go to the tech itself, another smaller, I want to spend a little bit of time on what is the opportunity, from FM leaders, given the new scenario. Can you very quickly share what are the new opportunities as for FM teams and operations teams, where you can impact the end customers, be it occupants or office tenant, or if you're serving a hotel, if you're serving a hospital. For your customers, what are the new opportunities that are coming up post-COVID, where as FM leaders you can play a bigger role for the businesses itself? Can you share some of that? Maybe we can start with Bashar on that.
I hope you would spare me to the last. I see a huge opportunities for the service providers to step up and be true service partners. Now, the COVID, irrespective of all the negativities that came across and what happened, to the companies, individuals, and the economies, it brought us closer together. Means we had to drop down every hat that anyone was wearing, and we had to roll out our sleeves and work or co-work together to help ourselves navigate through that particular pandemic. Then it was a bit stopped and hesitated due to so many, I think, a pressure from a P&L perspective, a pressure from a business continuity perspective, but it worked. When people had the will, it actually worked. So the opportunity to have the service providers step up to be service partners is there, and I'm open up and invite the service partners in and allow them to manage.
Okay. I think we lost Bashar until he comes back. David, can you share your views on this? What are the
Sure.
opportunities you are seeing in spite of the challenges, like for the future? What kind of opportunities you as a service provider are seeing
Yeah.
to add value for customers?
Okay. Yeah. Well, obviously, the integration of technologies and digitalization, that's going to increase efficiencies, which we're already seeing. Also, decreasing downtime, and it enables us to optimize our resources, which obviously gives the value to the client and the end users. In terms of IoT, if we have sensors connected to the assets, then immediately we can understand when there's a fluctuation in the performance of that asset. It could be a temperature change or a pressure change, and before the system breaks down, we get a notification due to that fluctuation. And then obviously it goes to a PDA, mobility, and then a technician can go and see it immediately. Then if it's something that we can just do fairly quickly, we'll do that. But then if that leads to something which is a major repair, for example, we can do a scheduled repair rather than it being a breakdown and increased downtime. So it's giving that it's passing on that benefit to the end users and our clients. We've brought in an Emerald efficiency app for our housekeeping, which allows us to keep track of where our housekeepers are. It enables them to track what they've done throughout the day so that they don't miss, for instance, in a horizontal community, I won't name it, but we will, for instance, we'll do road sweeping. So it allows us for the user to actually see where he or she has swept the road. So if they go for their lunch, for example, they can come back and it makes sure that they don't miss any areas. They can get right back to work. And it also allows us to then look at making efficiencies, because we've got that data. We can see maybe more efficient ways of doing routes or whatever, and investing in equipment, which we've done. For instance, because I'm going to mention obviously the technology side for the MEP, but I need to make sure that, because we're an IFM company, that we don't miss out on the housekeeping. So we also invested in a piece of equipment called a Kamar machine, which uses high pressure steam cleaning. So instead of traditional high pressure washers and brushes and lots of manpower, we've invested heavily into this piece of equipment, which obviously gives amazing results in a fraction of the time. So obviously we're looking at all of these as opportunities and continuous improvement, and it's something that we're working on daily.
So I think the whole proactive services is yes, it's an emerging opportunities. So other panelists, Stuart, you want to add anything on this?
Yeah, I mean, David's picked up on everything in terms of integration of systems, which is the key to it all, to be honest. I mean, probably the one bit you didn't really touch on was sort of energy and energy reductions, which has got to be a key part of where the future sits as well. I think probably one of the biggest challenges we face.
Yeah. I think we lost Stuart until Stuart comes back. Kanakraj, can you?
I would just that all the other three experts, they're more or less they covered majority. But I would bring one thing. It's real time for the real opportunity for that all the FM and property managers to test their business continuity plan, how we can operate, how we can evolve in terms of good and bad situations and moving forwards. But that's one of the real practically there are places I tested my business continuity plan. For example, how I can shift my resources, where I can bring them, how to operate them remotely. Those are the things. It's one of the real opportunity for us. That works. If it doesn't work, there is a corrective measures can be put in place so that unexpected become expected, so both can be managed. That's one of the things. Second thing, there is a crisis management plan where the building operation was prepared. They only focus on fire or some other emergency, and now it's the time to look after that various things we can include it, making sure that it's any situation that the FM and the property managers work together and manage the things. And the third opportunity is there. Earlier we used to go and meet the client physically, drive all the way to go and reach and meet the client. Right now it's opportunity for us to have a webinar, speak to them from wherever, work from anywhere, work from home. So these are the opportunities created. And the last opportunity I would bring that one, every single persons have to test their own technology. That's where the Facilio comes. You guys are in excelling that your team, enhancing that to meet the client's needs, so that we use some of the technology provided by some of the provider. So it's a time to test whether it's really making sense to our customers or not. So there's various aspects that we can take as an opportunity. Some of the area we're saving costs, we are not traveling, we are not moving, even we are not traveling outside the country, etc. But some of the areas we are spending, some equipment, some of the things we are procuring. So it's always win-win situation. We both have to work together and grab that opportunity and move forward. That's what I can say.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Stuart. Sorry, we lost you in between. Do you want to complete what you are saying?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, Prabhu, have you got a button when I say something you don't like, you just press and dump me out of this? Is that what happens?
No, this has happened to almost 3 of the panelists.
No, I was just saying about energy efficiency. I think probably the biggest challenge we face in that regard is the fact that most owners and developers in this region pass on energy costs to their tenants. So you've got to question how interested owners and developers are in reducing energy costs in their building. It's not a priority because they don't pay the bills. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges we've got in sort of future integration of all the systems we have in buildings, because where we should really be starting is looking at energy consumption, what we can do differently, and how all of the data we collect through intelligent sensors across buildings give us information that helps us reduce energy. That's probably the biggest challenge we face at the minute, I would say, in terms of integration of systems.
Okay. Yeah. So adding on this topic, like from my experience working with both service providers and customers, both in the region and globally, some of the opportunities that are specifically evolving and accelerating and after the pandemic, or as you said, rightly said, the initiatives around energy saving, there is a lot of remote monitoring services that service providers are launching, where moving the monitoring itself to central, and then helping building owners to centralize operations, remotely monitor, remotely control, automate some of that. That is something we are seeing globally coming up and accelerating. Both the service providers are initiating and customers are feeling that there's a clear value in that. And next area where there are opportunities coming up is the whole.
Sorry, Prabhu, just before you move on, apologies, but if I could just add one thing as well. One of the things we all seem to have forgotten about is BIM. And BIM has been around now for 15 plus years. Has been talked about a lot in construction circles and was meant to be the integration of a building asset that we would be able to manage the facilities through a BIM model, a BIM central intelligent model that would enable us to do all of this FM. BIM hasn't really come to fruition, and we haven't seen that step across from construction to enable us to get into, using it as the major tool for our FM futures. And I think that's one of the things that really needs addressing by construction companies. And whether that starts with the developer or whether it's with consultants or architects, they've got to start building assets and delivering BIM models to end users and service providers such as ourselves.
Yes, definitely. Like, we are seeing the usage of BIM beyond construction on day-to-day operations is increasing. So going back, my second point.
Not quick enough.
Yes. So another area where for FM teams, the opportunity we are seeing is how do you bridge a gap between the real estate company and the occupants? So that has always been sort of a frictional area, providing digital experience for even the occupant, not the tenant alone, where they can adjust, they can book a room meeting, more room bookings, they can invite visitors, they can invite third-party vendors, digitizing this whole thing. Very similar to how do you order food today, how do you order cab? Can the services be digitized? That is another area where we're seeing some interesting collaboration services being offered by the service providers to help real estate owners become like digital savvy, move closer to their customers. And the third area is workplace solutions. There is another way where if you're office building owner, you have tenants and you're a service provider serving there is a lot of collaboration happening where they are making the whole workplace solution more better, like digitally equipped, like air quality monitoring, meeting room booking, heating, ventilation management, up to the occupant level. That is also another area where it's an emerging opportunities, very innovative business models coming up. Too early, but we see those trends coming in. So having said that, we'll move to the next part of the webinar where on the technology itself. First, we'll quickly talk about what are the gaps that you are seeing from a traditional legacy system that you have been using for last, say, 10-15 years. Very quickly, like what are the gaps, and then we'll talk about how you are planning to fill or you are already filling in that gaps with better technologies or inbuilt or homegrown, whatever. Okay. So who from which panelist wants to pick up this first? I leave it to you.
I can take that if you want to start. I think traditionally CaFM systems tend to concentrate or focus on the MEP side of operations. And if we're looking at true IFM as we are as a company, so obviously we're trying to focus on a more holistic approach. We're trying to include not only the MEP, but the housekeeping, security, the QHSE, and energy management. And we've got to include all of that into CaFM systems. And that's something that we're working very hard on at the moment. I think a challenge maybe is that the BMS systems, which are within the buildings, they're obviously already installed. And generally this software is provided by the OEM and it's locked. So in terms of getting the most and the benefit from the BMS, we're losing that. It's a challenge to interface with our CaFM systems. And obviously if we can, have a bit more of a freer exchange of information, it means we can manage them buildings more easily and more efficiently. And of course, obviously there is, we've got CaFM systems, there's BMS systems, the community management companies and developers have their own systems as well. So I think there's a bit of work that we need to all do and work together in terms of collaborating those systems together. But obviously, once we've got all this data from all the systems that we have, we've got to do something with it as well. That's something that we understand and interpreting and reviewing that data. So we've actually got a data scientist who obviously helps us with advising us how to use this big data.
Okay, yeah. So I got it. So I think to summarize your points, one is the limitation to more MEP driven, but now there is customers experience, soft services. So that is not traditionally covered. and then there is a huge gap in how do you acquire data over a period of time, use the data, put the data to work, right? Any others want to add more on the gaps with current systems?
I will go from my side. I will
Yeah.
again build upon what David said with regards to the BMS system. When you're having the brain of your building messed up, then you will not be you will be basically paralyzed. And with the BMS, you get to have a little bit of a predictive approach when it comes to alarm. So you will be able to react before an actual failure happen, or react fast if a failure happen. Um, this can limit your I'll say capacity, or limit your operations. Not only this, but also as what Stewart said, it's about also energy management. BMS is connected to literally everything. And and it is meant to make your life easy. Instead of going and running around, you will just pre-program schedules and have it. So a healthy BMS means a healthy building, and this is something we all, from an FM perspective, suffer. We will so far. I don't recall having any BMS system that we received and it was in a properly working condition. Properly working condition, not even to the design specification. So this is one aspect. With regards to the CAFM system, the gaps are, I can categorize them under two main line items, I would call them. One of them is the system itself, and the other one is the users. The users, or the system acquirer, whomever is buying the system, they most like in many cases they go and they buy something that they don't really understand. As an example I used to give, when you go to a car dealership, you would want to have a car with full option, but when in reality you will hardly use any option other than the air conditioning and maybe the stereo. I have a car with a sunroof that I have almost never opened in few years. But
Yeah.
when I go there, I buy the full option, but I do not buy what I actually need. So a matter of educating the end user, or for the end user to understand what exactly they would require as an output, and what software can deliver that output for them. This would manage that particular aspect. The other one is the system itself. Many software companies, with all due respect to all of them, they have an off-the-shelf product that they want to impose on the end users, trying to over-promote the models so that they can increase the profitability from that perspective. Not only this, it is also the rigidity of the system itself when it comes to customization. Sometimes you need to have a little bit of a tweaking here and there so that it would meet your customer expectations or needs, but that also comes with cost, not only from a customization perspective, from a licensing perspective as well. So from a CAFM perspective, it is end user. They need to understand the output they actually need for them to find the proper CAFM that they would actually require. And then the system itself, rather than having an off-the-shelf system, to have it a little bit customizable, user-friendly, definitely, and economical, I would say.
Yeah, great. Like, very insightful. Again, to summarize, you touched upon two areas. The BMS itself, they're truly legacy, not ready, not helping in terms of integrations, energy management, and all of that. Plus the CAFM, the buying sophistication itself, there is a gap there on what is really needed, what to buy. Plus the whole customizability, rigidity of existing legacy solutions, right? Stuart, would you like to add something on this?
I mean, I think most things have been picked up. I think just the point to make is, I mean, I agree with what David and Bashar have said, but it takes investment, and we need to find owner developers who are prepared to invest, because the systems are available. They can integrate. They do have all of the bolt-ons that everybody's talking about we should have. And it comes back to something David said right at the beginning, actually, that FM is seen as a cost. And actually, it adds a lot of value if you do it properly. And then if you get into all of the full integration with your BMS system and the whole managing an asset, it will add a lot of value to the asset. But that's not really understood yet. So there's a lot of work to be done on both sides of the table, I think.
Yeah. Finally, Kanakaraj, your inputs.
just all those panels are given a very good inputs. First, congratulate them that they've done a wonderful inputs. So from my side, if you take any other property life cycle before construct, I think this all people what sitting today, we have to sit together and to find the best mechanism that works, including that tools and the technology, and they're going to use it. So I see there is a gaps in that, because what happened, the developer developed something else without consulting with the FM providers and the property manager. The property manager comes in that he comes with the different systems, and they try, because what happened, it's already been built with what are the gaps there. Then we all trying to firefighting, trying to fit where the gaps, how to fit in, or which technology we can bring in. Sometimes what happen, we go on ad hoc basis, bring various technology, and realize that it's something's not working. I could see there are a lot of gaps on that one. If that's that in terms of the whole life cycle, if you take it of property from inception till the closure or handover, after post handover, even Bashar was telling the BMS. If the current situation, if you look at that, the BMS there, but what is as built, what has been delivered is not there. There are systems during the deliver that the product's already outdated because technology already upgraded. So we have to go back and replace the entire system there. There are certain gaps are there. Maybe that could be addressed collectively. I think it starts from the beginning rather than once post completions we all sit and discuss. That's one of the area we can definitely, there is a gaps to be addressed. Again, what I was telling, sometimes there is one of the cost factor. I think I'm not against Prabhu, that I'm just telling you there are small or medium sized FM companies that are not able to cope and bring that the cost of that CaFM system what we talk about, or maybe some of the solutions that's available in the market bring and work as something that is if the technology provider come up with easy solutions, or maybe some of the better solutions can address all those medium-sized players in the market facing a challenge. Also, one of the because those are the people also still managing certain properties, which they need a great support. That's one of the area that I can think. And the last is that from technology, from the building, from the usage, with a large complex are there, which may demand more, but we may not use it to the optimum level. So the optimization of the technology to the building needs is one of the the gaps that I could see it.
Right. Yes, you're right. So your points fall under this whole silo problem. We are having there is so much of silos into BMS, CaFM systems, and other systems. They're not integrated with each other, and there is also lack of buying sophistication, rigidity. So yeah. To summarize, for all your points, we touched upon the legacy systems not going beyond the MEP asset management into end users, customer experience, tenant experience, soft services, future facing capabilities not yet there. Plus, we touched upon the whole data being not put in the right use. And then we both Kanakaraj and Bashar touched upon the whole lack of customization, rigidity, affordability of technology, silos. So these are the gaps. And looking at future, as leaders, if we have to move to the future and then solve these problems, plus on top of that, so what are the capabilities from a technology point of view you are really looking after? What is that you're currently strategizing? It could be like IoT or data, machine learning, or any even simple workflows to be automated. Can you share about? We looked at the gaps, but more looking forward, what is that you see really coming up in the technology space of operations? Because if you look at other areas, there is a lot of things happening in terms of logistics, e-commerce, and even consumer, everything. We are able to book apps, we are able to book food, so much of sophistication there. But bringing that to property operations, what are the areas that you are looking for when it comes to solving through technology? Anyone wants to start?
I'm happy to pick up first. I guess from our point of view, there's two aspects really. One is definitely about asset sensors and having remote monitoring of assets. So, we all know the benefits it provides, and we're trying to push that quite heavily. one of the things it gives us in the future is we all talk about SFG 20 and planned maintenance, and actually remote monitoring should enable us to reduce what SFG 20 tells us we should be doing for planned maintenance. So it should be, we should immediately get the cost saving. I mean, SFG 20 might tell us we're going to need to clean filters and a fan cool unit 4 times a year, but it doesn't know when a sandstorm's hit, whereas a remote sensor would say, filter's blocked, come and unblock it. It might not be blocked again for 6 months. So you're doing maintenance as and when required, rather than saying, well, here's an international standard, I must follow it to tick a box. And I think that's one of the key aspects in terms of doing things efficiently in the future, hopefully reducing costs for end users and just making ourselves more efficient as well. I think the other one is, you know, ESCO and energy saving, which I touched on earlier, but a lot of people are now bringing in ESCO providers, listening to what they've got to say. They do a walk around your building, and they'll come back and give you a list of things you can do to save energy. For me, the start point is to have data around the energy and your property. It's not a walk through a building and say your chillers are 15, 20 years old, you can add adiabatic cooling to them and that's going to save you 15% of energy savings over a year. Actually record it, spend 2 or 3 months collecting data, using proper data recorders to understand how your building is actually operating and working and how the heartbeat of the building is ticking away, and then make decisions based on data analysis rather than just a walkthrough to say, well, that's old, therefore it must be inefficient and it needs changing.
Okay, great. Yeah, I hear like energy saving, remote monitoring, deeper asset management. Kanakraj, like, can you share your wish list?
My wish list could be that, using legacy systems, I think there's an exchange of knowledge or data that could help in terms of, moving into preventive maintenance to predictive maintenance. So that could be one of the area that, we all can collaboratively work together. For that, there is a data science has to work behind. We understand that, but also there is no industry informations across available, so that, a person, I'm telling you, maybe that the lift is required for, quarterly maintenance instead of quarterly, maybe halfly. Maybe some 2 months once. So it allows us to, that the property manager or end user or asset owners to plan their, replacement costs, for example, I'm telling you, or maybe that, the asset life enhancement can be much better improved. That's one area. Using the technology, I think that, we have to still go back and bit of more realistic, I would say. They give one of the example, when I go to the building for an inspection, whether the certain service carried out or not, I have to ask the persons, hey, the service been carried out. Then they bring in certain information from the system or ask me to wait, let me go and check the systems and come back to you, rather than like a barcode system. Like myself, I can scan it and check whether what was, inspection done, what was the, the history of the, the works carried out for the particular assets. So those kind of, bringing that information to the transparency and bringing that end users more into, visibility will also make everybody's life easier. And also it builds the confidence and trust with our partners, with FM providers. So I think that's majority part. It also involves in the property management side or property management to give them that, allow the FM providers or the technology providers to gather all those informations, listen to the experts, like that, all these panels sitting there together and get their opinion, and possibly, include that also one of the things. It's more or less, it's simple word to say consultation. The consultation with the technology provider, with various providers operating that particular zoning or particular building is more critical. That's one of the things that, I would recommend.
Yeah, right. So I would summarize this into data-driven operations, and next one is how do you bring in like different stakeholders, make them collaborate, share knowledge, even as part of the tech platform. Moving to David, can you share your wish list on the like moving forward? What is the key aspects that you want to solve with tech?
Sure. I think we've certainly come a long way in terms of with the various things that we've already added. But I think artificial intelligence is probably something that we're going to move towards, and collaborating with command and control centers, which we're already using. So that way you can manage multiple buildings And then I think if the combination between AI and the command and control center, you can have subject matter experts sitting in the command and control centers. So therefore, you can also upskill your workforce at the same time by having these SMEs within the command and control center, and you can have someone with AR or VR looking at the assets and guiding. They would be guided by the SME, which would be in the command and control center, and I don't think that's too far away. I think that's something that we'll see soon.
Sure. Bashar, your inputs?
See, the era of artificial intelligence and machine learning is already here, and we're living it, and we have it executed in many of our facilities. But if you are talking about a wish list, I wish to have an open source software, irrespective of what these softwares are, so that I can have a seamless communication between them for the benefit of the end user. Currently, what is happening, like we're having multiple buildings, everyone has their own brain or their own software with a closed protocol. I have to introduce another layer to connect all these brains to that particular software, and that is adding another single point of failure or another point of failure. So instead of increasing or enhancing my system reliability, we are actually adding more layers that would reduce the system reliability and would harm directly or indirectly the end user. So I wish to have more open source softwares that are freely communicating with each other for the benefit of the end user.
Okay, great. Just to summarize again, we touched upon the whole remote monitoring, deeper asset management, sustainability management, data-driven operations, central command centers, ML, machine learning-based prediction, and finally, more open systems that can collaborate, integrate among themselves. So yeah, that's I think these are all very practical, and I'm sure like you all of you are already in some stages of trying this or even implemented. They are live, but all of them fall under the top necessary things in future point of view, like how technology can really come and play a role. We have like few minutes before we take questions. What I would like to do is to do a sort of a quick rapid fire. Each person gets like 3 seconds, simple one word answer. So first question is, if you have to solve one pressing problem next year in 2022 with technology, what is that? Forget about budget, forget about like if you're given complete freedom in your organizations, and if you just want to pick one problem to solve, what would be that? So we'll pick with Stuart.
In one word.
So in one problem.
I mean, for me, it comes back to software. So we're trying to move next year to a single software system that will be our CaFM system, our finance system, our HR system. It will pick up all aspects of procurement, payroll, store management, everything. So that's a challenge for us next year. That's the one problem we want to address, because at the minute we've just got too many standalones. And to be honest, every single question we've had throughout this discussion has come back to integration of software systems, and that's what we're trying to achieve next year.
Killing the silo, yes. Kanakaraj, like, can you pick one problem that you would like to solve with technology?
Currently, we all go through that, technology, all the things. Then now, more or less, we are moving into mobile apps, most because everybody's coming with that one, and also
mobility.
Get rid of that. We have a complex, system. At least give them a very clear, concrete, more into graphical driven kind of things. Behind that things, all the technology, whatever that experts talks about, all can work on it. But at least the mobile app, something only things we are working on for connecting all the service provider, the owner and the residents, as well as the property managers. Together, that app has to be connected. That's what we wanted to take it forward in 2022. We are working on it already. I think we got success as well. In our properties, we have got a dedicated mobile app which connects every stakeholders.
Okay. Yeah. So it is mobility plus collaboration is what you would pick to solve.
Yes.
Right. Bashar, can you share yours?
I'll fix the technology itself. I'll start by fixing my current CaFM system.
Okay. Great.
In
David.
short.
Okay. David.
Yeah. Okay. It's a challenge that we take year on year, but we'll take it again this year, and that's to bridge that gap between expectation and pricing by using technology.
Okay. David, from the beginning to the end, is very stable with the same point. Great.
Consistency.
Yeah, so yeah, it's a good problem to solve. Like, how do you bridge a gap between the expectations and the business itself? Great. Yeah. I think we are right on time. We have 8 more minutes. We can take some questions. Again, thanks again for everyone for sharing your views. We'll look for some questions. Yeah, there are a few. Christina Karen, I'll read out the question, you can answer. Without user education, a lot of tech features go underutilized, therefore leads to wasted investment. How is this addressed at the time of deployment? Anyone want to pick up this? So basically, you're buying technology, but it has a lot of features. There is a gap in user education. Like, what is the best way to sort of solve that?
Just to address one
got
simple way to
understand exactly what you want at the very beginning, and obviously build the specification around your wants, your needs, and your clients' wants and needs, because ultimately that's what we're all trying to solve.
Yeah.
If you want to add these important things, nowadays, using WhatsApp, using some mobile app, you don't need a really training. But I wanted that the technology to be developed such a user friendly, even there is no trainers required. If at all training is required, the help assistance comes into play immediately. And there are virtual assistants also in place to train them, help them. If you go to any other industry, bank to property management, etc., all those things now that comes with advancement, we can say that in terms of technology, it is very user friendly, and without even help of the people, this can be used. So that's one of the focus that every technology provider, that's one of the things we can use. Recently, one of the system that I implemented, when the community management, we making sure that training model is inbuilt, which part of every menus, every commands that been incorporated, so that the end user, they no need to look for it. For example, if you want to click one button, it comes with a specification, examples, and easy to read and understand. Apart from that one, the information is already given infographical, that's also helping. I think infographical with the helpline and with the support system will address that issues. It's my view.
Yeah, I think like more contextualization for that user, what is really required, making it user friendly, rather than like the traditional problem of you buying a big ERP systems. It has so many things, and the customer has to change for the solution rather than solution adapting to the customer. So there is another question. I'll read it out. How significant or helpful if BIM integrates with CaFM systems? Anybody wants to?
Yeah, I'll pick up on this one if I can. I typed a very short reply to Rashid Nabir there. So for me, I mean, if you actually look at the intent of BIM models when they first came about, they were about starting with design concept, moving into procurement, moving into construction, moving into FM. Then they were about retrofit, and it was a complete life cycle of the asset that went round and round with FM and retrofit and fit out until the building was to be demolished. And then you should use the BIM model to enable you to recycle the goods that were in the building. So the intent of BIM when it first came out was everything about a life cycle of the building. So integration with facilities management, 100% was a key aspect of that, and was meant to be used for the whole life of the asset. I think the problem is most construction projects go into construction without having a proper specification around what's required for BIM, and that specification doesn't have FM in mind. So it's more about buildability and achieving construction during the program of the construction rather than what you're going to do with the model after it. But
Yeah.
in terms of the question, how significant? Hugely significant. I'm just yet to see it.
Yes.
I will
That
build
also
on what
brings.
Stewart, if I may, Prabhu, I will build on what Stewart
Yeah.
said. I fully agree with this. One very significant problem that we end users face is the lack of information during the design stage all the way through the project stage, and the inaccuracy of the provided information, being the testing and commissioning data or the proper asset register or even the as-built. So having BIM, to act as a centralized library, if I can call it that way, that would be handed on a silver plate to the end user, is definitely significant. But what is more significant is ensuring the integrity of the data. As they say in IT, garbage in, garbage out. So if the integrity of the data is similar to the integrity of the data passed now, then BIM or no BIM, it won't make much of a difference.
True, true. So I was about to say that you touch upon your point only, Bashar, where you mentioned earlier the integration between different systems is really handicapping. So this is one classic example where BIM has a lot of value. Then CaFM is used day in and day out. These tools can integrate, of course, with proper sanitized data. Then there is a clearly a huge value in that. Um, I think we covered both the questions we got, and we are also right on time. We can end the webinar. Thanks again. Thanks all four of you to come and share your views. I'm sure like this has been very useful for the audience to take away. We basically touched upon some of the challenges and how future looks like. Uh, so broadly, the theme is better integration, open platforms, data-driven operations, better mobility. So these are the themes that we are seeing that are among top priorities among the common leaders. So with that, thanks everyone for joining us. Like Namita, we are done. You can do the closing notes. And
A big thank you to all our speakers for your valuable time, and it was an insightful session. And also a big thank you to our audience who listened in. So with that, we'll wrap up this webinar. Thank you, everyone.
thank you,
Thank you.
thank you,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This webinar will be available on our website and also the YouTube channel
great.
in case you
Okay,
want to
Thank you.
access.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.